Hello, y'all. Hey, running half an hour late? No. Live in 30 minutes? What? No. We're live now. Before we start, let me know how the video quality is because I'm trying out some new high resolution stuff. If it works for you, let me know. If it's like stuttery and stuff, I might need to restart this. But anyways, welcome to our Patreon hangout. It's the February hangout. It's March, but we're still doing it. It's still like the monthly schedule kind of thing. Choppy video. Okay, then let me kind of restart this real quick. I'll be back in a second. Okay, I'm hoping this is better. This should be better. This is a full HD stream now. Right into it, because these are some stuttering here. Turn. Still stuttering? I don't know. But these are... Why do we have this camera stacked up like that? Okay. These are questions so far. So, Jan Gustetti is asking about my trip to Prague last Friday, actually. So, not this Friday, but the Friday a week ago. I visited Prusa's factory. I visited their entire operation, their new building, their whatever. And yes, it was his birthday. They brought up the bad light. I did post it on Twitter. Would be nice to have an inside look. Yes, you're all gonna get that. In like 2 months. They're still, like, their entire building is still heavily under construction. They're setting up filament lines. They're actually setting up an entire maker space in there that's actually going to be public and not just for the Prusa employees. But yeah, you will get that. It's just a 3-hour drive, so it's like it's a day trip for me basically. The other question is more time to experiment with the Mark II S multi-material upgrade. I did print a few things with it. I mostly am using the Atom, which is the similar approach, Atom 2.5EX, 2 extruder, single nozzle. It's got many of these same, what I call it, shortcomings? Yeah, shortcomings, quirks of that entire setup. So that's where I get most of my experience from. The multi-material, though, is ready to rock anytime. I'm not quite sure whether I like it or not yet. It's definitely a nice solution, a nice, easy solution to have multi-material, but yeah, it does have its downsides. So before I start the next question, let me try to fix this and jump into a different preset in OBS. 1 second. Okay, we should be streaming. CPU is a bit better, but anyways, let's get back to questions. If it's stuttery, I'm sorry. I might have didn't some of the old questions. Yeah, I'm sorry if it's stuttery. 100% my fault. I mean, this doesn't look like it's working too hard, but yeah. Anyways, video is good again. Perfect. Well, we'll see if it starts stuttering again. Chase McNamara is asking, "Hey Tom, he's a mechanical engineer and has been drawing up for an Ultimaker style printer. Any tips for that?" So basically, the one big tip I can give about Ultimaker style setups is like the head needs to be super light. And the bed, the up and down moving bed, do I have the Ultimaker here? I don't think I do. No, the Ultimaker is over there in storage. Much better? Awesome. So the one tip, make the head very light. So use, maybe not for the X up top, maybe not use solid rods, but try and use something like tubes, which are very rigid but very light. And they give you much better rigidity to weight than something that's solid. And for the Z-axis, make that as rigid as you can. And Chase is also mentioning that he's already, she, I have no idea, is already using 3 linear rods and 2 lead screws. That is already much better. I'm not sure how well the 2 lead screws will work, because that might give you like a rocking motion. The E3D Big Box actually had a big issue with that. It had like a rectangular bed and had the lead screws like centered, so it could always rock back and forth. So maybe try 1 lead screw and cantilever it, so it's like pre-tensioned. But yeah, maybe use supported rails or actual linear carriages, but 3 rods is already much better. Adonis is saying, I've missed a few questions. Okay. Oh yeah, that's sorry, Patreon. Here we go. Cool. I did in fact miss those. Cool, thanks for pointing that out. Jonathan is asking, he has finished up a redesign of a custom Delta for the better, to a point where he thinks that it would be a platform suitable for makerspaces or people who want larger build volumes that can be found on a traditional i3. Well, that's one of the nice things about Deltas is you can build them pretty much as tall as you want. Sharing the design for free on Thingiverse, but was wondering what would you consider minimum parts instructions provided if he was to make it a build kit for sale. Oh wow. So that's a tricky question. So what? Oh, I just found the Ultimaker. It's under the table. Cool. What would be my minimum expectation for a kit that is actually being sold? Actually, it does depend heavily on what kind of person you're marketing it towards. Like if you're saying, okay, this is a DIY kit, this is something that you can use as a platform to build your own stuff. If you're doing that, then you probably don't need as much documentation and as much detailed documentation there than if you're saying, for example, like this is a professional machine that you can just unbox or, add these 6 screws and now it's this massive Delta that you can use for like professional use. I would always want a build manual that has pictures for every step, that explains every step to get a fully working machine. So that includes, you have to assume like your user might not be versed in 3D printing at all. If you're building a 3D printer, you already have more knowledge than 95% of the people out there that are wanting to get into it. So have a full instruction manual that you can give to your mom, maybe, or to, I know that's a stereotypical example, but so that she would be able to build it if maybe she kind of has some background there. So full manual, also slicer setup. You do need slicer profiles and that sort of stuff included as well. You do need a good firmware that comes on the printer. Minimum parts instructions provided. Well, minimum parts, like the parts you need to build a printer, like all the parts in there, if to have a fully working machine, unless again it's a DIY kit and you're basically selling it as a what's called bare bones printer. Same with PCs. Cool. I think that should answer it. Ronas is asking, finally a Hangout. Cool. Video about the TMC 2130, and he's asking about the TMC 2208, which also support silent mode. So the TMC 2208 are they use the same motion core as the TMC 2130 or 2100, so the simpler ones, but they are basically pin compatible to your old Lego drivers and like function compatible too. So they're basically, especially the boards they come on, so they literally drop in replacements. I don't think they have the same interface as the TMC 2130 with the SPI, right? Yeah, with the SPI interface. I think they have like a serial interface instead. So like that sort of stuff, where you can actually set features through the firmware, is not going to work for the 2208. They might actually have a fault pin, though. If you're not hooking it up, the firmware is not going to be able to configure it. So you're not getting a lot of the features that the 2130 has. and that the Mark III is using, but Marlin is now also starting to support. So yeah, basically, if you're using them as a drop-in replacement, you don't need to change anything. You just use them as is, you drop it in, but you also don't need any firmware configuration for that. So they're just a much, much simpler approach to TMC drivers. Explaining how microstepping works and specifically the interpolated 2560 that Dynamics can achieve might be a good video, says Phil Maddox. Yes, I can. Can I show you that? I guess I can show you that. Oh, fresh. Do I have? No, I'm not logged in. Okay. Yeah, I do have a Trello board with pretty much, basically 200 video ideas on there. So enough for 5 years, basically, because new ones keep pouring in. So that's one of the video topics on there. I'm going to take note and maybe talk about that once there are 2 likes on there. So that's a good indicator. I might pull that up and just do that sometime soon. Okay, Sven Olaf Norman is saying, hi Tom, I saw Joel's video about changing the hot end on the CR10 to the Micro Swiss all metal hot end. As you understand, the change keeps the original thermistor. Okay. Okay, so will the protective sleeves on the thermistor leads deteriorate and produce toxic fumes if you go higher than 250? Yes. Yes, basically. CR10, I actually do have that right here. So let me check real quick. I thought I don't know. Ugh. Look at that. CR10. Magic. So the original, yes, I can see it's clamped down on this side. It's using Teflon insulation on the thermistor wires. So yes, that is not too healthy if you actually keep that in there. So definitely replace that thermistor. Use one with glass fiber insulation, preferably. The other question in that, the other part of the question was, would the thermistor type with the M3 threaded connection, would that be a better choice if those also have PTFE sleeved leads? Wow. Okay. Hello, video. Need to fix that. Would there be a better choice? No, because the M3 threaded thermistor, so let me just pull that up so we're all on the same page. M3 thermistor, yes. So it's basically, these are all copyright protected images, so I'm probably violating everyone's copyright right now, but whatever. So we're basically talking about these that have like the brass insert, or this is aluminum, and then a thermistor in that. The problem with these is that the thermistor in that brass insert, that brass screw, you can see how these are built, is just potted in with an epoxy typically. And that epoxy, which is actually an issue that is, I don't know if it's polymer science or something, but most polymers degrade at 250 degrees, and epoxy is one of them, so you're not going to really find anything that stands up to that. So those will fall apart as well. And you'll find that most of them are only rated to 250 degrees either, and many of them aren't even rated that high. So no, a M3 thermistor is not going to work better. Sorry. So yeah, go with one that's in the cartridge with, well, if you can make that fit, go with one that has the cartridge type and glass fiber insulation, or just the regular glass bead head and then some glass fiber on the legs. Cool, we did these. Let's jump into chat real quick. So chat right there. Chase McNamara is asking, E3D Cyclops versus Chimera for ease of use. I think that question is in here as well, somewhere. No, okay. Maybe, yes? I don't know. E3D Cyclops versus Chimera for ease of use. They're both not perfect solutions. So the Cyclops is the version with the filament path that goes into a single nozzle, and the Chimera is actually just a dual hot end setup. So I would probably go with the Chimera because the Cyclops is a much more experimental setup. Yes, the Chimera is going to ooze. That's right. But the Cyclops is, you can only use it with both filaments loaded. So you can't really use it for a single extrusion. You're always going to need to have something in both filament paths. Or it's just going to leak out the wrong hole. You always need to keep both holes plugged. It does have some issues with like priming and stuff flowing the wrong way. I would go with the Chimera, even though it's not like a super elegant solution. I still think like dual independent X carriages, X axes, IDEX, independent dual X, whatever. It's still like the best solution you can have. Sorry, as is on the Sigma. So if you can work that in, go with that. But otherwise, if it's between the Cyclops and the Chimera, I think the Chimera is the more robust solution. Cool. Brandon Terry's asking about the grade thickness of the steel that would be best for a custom spring steel sheet like the Mark IIIs. Hard time finding info suppliers, but yeah, I know a lot of people want this sort of nope, wrong camera. This sort of setup on their own printers. So I'm not an expert on steel grades. I'm not an expert on what exactly this is. But this looks like a 0.8 millimeter or 1 millimeter thick steel sheet. I'm actually not sure if this is like a special spring steel. I think it is. But yeah, I can't really give you much info there. You might be able to dig through the GitHub of the official Prusa account of the MK3 design files, and you might find like the thickness of these. Not sure though. But yeah, I'm sure there is a spring steel that you can buy as a sheet. It's probably just going to be hard to buy it in like the small sizes you need. They probably want to sell you like a meter by 2 meter full sheet. So I can't really help with that. I'm sorry. But talk to your local steel supplier or someone. They might be able to point you in the right direction. Can you do independent Hoddens and Marlin? Chase McNamara is asking. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can do dual independent X-axes in stock Marlin. Cool. Chris Munchie is asking, good morning, Tom. Well, it's 6:30 p.m. Not quite morning, but I guess it was morning when you wrote that. Couple of discussion ideas. 32-bit... okay. Well, thanks for this. Thanks for the praise there. Discussion ideas. 32-bit controller boards. Let's actually rapid fire these. Because I don't exactly know what he's getting at with these. 32-bit controller boards. Fantastic improvement. Fantastic, potential in them. But right now, 8-bit still works fine. The thing is, though, 32-bit is actually cheaper than 8-bit right now. The Atmegas we're using are ridiculously expensive. You can get like a quad-core mobile chip for the same price. So once the firmwares are there, once the Marlin modularity is there, I think 32-bit is going to completely take over. My thought on touchscreens. You need a very well implemented UI. Otherwise, they're mostly a hindrance and a flashy gimmick. The Sigma does it well. The Mark I machines do it amazingly well. But something like, I think it was the AIO Zeus, I wasn't quite happy with the touchscreen. So if done well, fantastic. Making the TMC 2130s work in the RAM Sport, I did a video about that. Getting a BL Touch to work on a Delta and Marlin. Not sure what the issue with that would be. I do have a genuine BL Touch waiting in the box, but I'm going to check that out if there are any issues right there. Okay. That was, yeah. Maybe if you're asking questions, like ask a question. Discussion ideas. I don't know if that's a video ideas that he's pointing out there, but well, thanks for that anyways. Chad has swapped out his Y and Z DRV 825s and the X and extruder A498 with TMC 2108s. Okay, there is an LCD occupying aux 2 and 3 and was not able to connect with SPI. So his drivers are all running in Stealth Chop. Okay. To not have to permanently switch is like straight Stealth Chop 2 might be causing some problems. Octoprint, no LCD. Yeah, I'm working on that LCD plus TeamC 2130 video. That will come. I'm still trying to figure things out. Until then, would I keep an LCD? I would probably keep an LCD over Octoprint because it's just really nice not having to pull your phone out. If, for example, you just want to load a filament or want to swap something or just, home the bed or something. I do like that small, simple physical interface on the printer itself. So if you can live with the DRV825 for now, stick with them. The other thing is though, hold on. He's using TMC 2208, so he can. Okay, prefer not to have it permanently switched to spread cycle. Yeah, so you can control those with Marlin. It's not the same interface though. So I'm gonna have to look into that, whether that's the whether that actually requires the LCD to be modified or whether that actually requires the same connector. Okay. Right. Andre is asking, have I had any experience with airbrush valves as nozzles? Wow. So I do know that, for example, the what's it called? The Dice by René Jurak. He did build like an E3D based hot end that uses airbrush nozzles, but not airbrush valves. So the actual nozzle at the tip of the airbrush gun, because you can buy those extremely cheaply. They look like a 3D printing nozzle. They're not quite the same shape. So he had like an adapter to screw them into. But those I know work really well. Not sure about airbrush valves, but what I can tell you about, because he's asking about the top layer is looking more like a corrugated sheet. How on the Z side, so on the top side of his prints, he has, maybe I can demonstrate this or show this somehow. No, I only have good prints. That is fantastic. So basically his nozzle is not leaving a smooth surface on the top of his prints. So either that is a, subscribe. Yeah, you guys are already subscribed. I know that. So his nozzle, actually we have a second camera, so why not use that? That does not do autofocus. Fantastic. There we go. So this surface here is much rougher than he'd like it. This also has some roughness on it, but in these smaller bits, it's usually a bit more rough. But what is happening with his nozzle setup, I think, is he's got a nozzle that isn't shaped correctly for 3D printing. So what you typically have is like this is basically upset down because this is hard to do. So nozzle, you have your 45-degree angles, and then you have the flat up top where you have the board in the middle. And depending on how large that flat is, like if you have just a tiny bore and then a large flat around that, it's going to iron down your layers more than you need to. If it's just really pointy, or if there's like a like a burr on the bore, or if it's like flanging out, if your nozzle bore is like flanging out, it's gonna look horrible. So take a really good look at that nozzle itself and at that bore itself. And if it doesn't have that typical shape, like you can deviate from that. Like it can be a bit pointier, it can be a bit flatter, but it should be like the same general shape as your typical 3D printing nozzles. And if it does have that, you might be just over extruding. If it does not, look at the nozzle and see if that if the geometry could be an issue for you. Doug is asking about his self-built 3D printer, which is awesome. And currently has a Mark II printed PCB heater, and manual leveling works well, but he wants to replace it with something that he can auto level. What would I recommend? Is the Mark III any good? So, Doug, I'm not sure if you're asking about the Mark III heated bed or the entire printer. But if he has a Mark II heated bed, so the PCB, the Mark 42. No, hold on. No, he's not talking. Shit, why are these names so confusing? So, what he has. Hold on. What he has is not the Prusa Mark II. He's got the Prusa PCB heat beds, which are also Mark something. Prusa, you really fucked up with your terminology there. So heat beds. That's the Mark II. That's the Mark I. Basic difference is the Mark II heated bed has contacts on both sides. Mark III, I don't think is an official heated bed. I think that's like a community made one. However, these you can auto level. Like, okay, first of all, if you have these heated beds, you should. By the way, these are two that are epoxied together. If you have these beds, then you probably shouldn't be printing on the PCB directly, because these PCBs flex like crazy. Like they will bow up and down. Like they'll literally work like a. Oh, that's nice in the second camera. They will literally work like a bowl shaped linear cylinder kind of, so that they will warp up and down. I'm just seeing this is actually delaminating. Fantastic. So these will flex a lot. So for example, if you have the second layer at a lower temperature, this might warp up during the first layer. Then the second layer, as the power turns off, it goes like whoop, and all of a sudden you have your second layer not sticking anymore. So these beds, I would definitely recommend at least putting an aluminum sheet. I do prefer aluminum over glass because it doesn't break and it conducts heat much better. So you get a really nice and even temperature on that surface. Put something like a 3mm aluminum sheet on top, or like a 4mm glass. 3mm does break really easily. But if you do put aluminum on top, you can just use an inductive sensor and auto level that away. The alternative would be to use a capacitive sensor. Also kind of works. You're going to have to find one that has a really short sensing distance, so you don't get a lot of variance between humidities and temperatures, etc. Or use something like the BioTouch, just a physical mechanical probe. Though with the Mark III heated bed, I don't think you need to change that out. There are options that work with these existing beds. And also these have, just looking at this, so these have copper on one side. So if he's actually directly printing onto these, he might have the traces up. So the heating traces, he might have those pointing up. But the other side is just a solid copper plane. So this should work with an inductive sensor as is. All right, I'm hoping that answers that. Rob McEwen is asking about a recommendation on cleaner, conditioner, etc. for maintenance on rubber rollers on the rail. So CO10 is approaching 8 months old with lots of printing and little maintenance. Okay. Yeah, that's actually something that I am noticing as well. So let's actually show that, because we can. So I don't know how many hours this CR10 has seen, but it's probably like maybe 100 hours of printing. And this is how the rollers look. So you can see this is actually wear on the rollers itself. So this is like flakes of the Delrin wheels just coming off. And so the rails themselves look relatively clean, but I know there can be some buildup like in the grooves itself where the wheels run. But what I would recommend is, first of all, let him wear in. So he's saying, lots of printing after 8 months. So I'd say that is worn in. And then if you really want to, you can actually use pretty much any sort of grease on this. I guess something that's a bit... something that's like a wax-like consistency, I guess, would work pretty well, because it just sticks on there and it sticks on the wheels and it does get smooshed around, but also like just a thin layer of thick grease if you really want to grease like the running surface. It's not going to attack the Delrin or the aluminum, so that's fine. And the belts are typically also quite resistant against that sort of stuff. So yeah, really anything you want, just don't use like the really thin greases or WD-40. That's not going to get you any results because it's just going to WD-40. I mean, it's going to evaporate basically. We're just going to run off. So yeah, something thick should work. Cool. More CR10. I feel like this episode is all about this one. I've not reviewed this one. Let me know, guys, if you want, if you do want a review of this or of the, where's the other one? Of the ANET E10. Not sure. Cool. Go Eland. Is that GUI land or Go Eland? I never know. You might be using genuine open builds. I know genuine open builds are much better than what they put on these. The tolerances on these are horrible. Also, I think the material is a bit cheaper. But, okay. But yeah, I know genuine open builds don't wear nearly as fast as the Chinese copies. Cool. Love the Butcher Prusa clone. Thank you for that. Any plans on building a printer project and making videos about it? For example, a Delta or Core XY. So I do have... Okay. I do have... Well, hi there. I do have my Cerberus Reborn, which is back there. I know I didn't make like a fully... Ooh. Okay, gotta be careful with that. I know I didn't make like a fully detailed... That's weird, having me twice in there. I know I didn't make a fully detailed build log or anything about that. Would I make a fully custom printer design? I don't think there's the need for yet another printer iteration, but yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think there are more important things right now than to have yet another 3D printer. Maybe I'm going to pick one that is already out there, that is already designed and already known and in the community, and people are making upgrades for it. That's a fully open source and customizable design. Maybe that sounds like a fun idea. Cool. Wendy Sarah is asking what time? Well, now. Will the Hangout happen? Yes. And lastly, Susan Woods. I can't. How can you disable those pop-ups? Susan Woods is asking about the i3, the original Prusa i3 Mark III multi-material upgrade 2.0. They're not great with names. we should have realized that by now. Where did I answer that? I think I answered that on Twitter, actually. Prusa are working on it. I know they have that like somewhere low on their bucket list. But don't expect like a ton of upgrades to the actual multi-material hardware, because that's already quite close to the Mark III on the Mark II multi-materials version. But expect a ton of improvements to the software. I know they have a 4 or 5 man slicer SlickVR team that are specifically optimizing their build of SlickVR for the multi-material, and are adding some really good improvements that work around those aforementioned shortcomings of that single nozzle approach, and they are doing a pretty good job at it from what I've seen so far. So it's not really about the hardware. Like the hardware, I think they could ship right now, but it's a software that is going to see a huge improvement, and that is going to carry over to the old Mark II multi-material as well, which is really nice. Cool. Question chat is going crazy. Okay, I don't know if to ask him about the Zesty Nimble Direct Drive Extruder. I think I've been offered one, but I have not checked it out. I've not tried it. I can't have an opinion on it because I've not tried it. That's my usual standing, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, I guess. I'll look it up, but I don't have I've not tried it. Sorry. Alexander is asking about whether I know a company that sells Delta kids, like Prusa Ultimaker. So I wouldn't buy my kids online. I do want to know where they come from. But if he's asking about kids, then I guess the one that I'm using a lot is the Atom, which is from Taiwan. They might be a bit on the expensive side, though. They're really nice hardware. What else can I recommend? I know there's some US brands that have really nice, really large deltas. There's some Chinese ones. It just depends on what you want, like whether you want the really low end DIY, figure it out yourself kit, or whether you want a really polished one. There are some options out there. It's a pretty wide range of options there. N-Tester66 still wants me to use the chat window. The Do It Wi-Fi. Yes, I still really do want to use the Do It Wi-Fi, though. By now, they have actually offered me to send an updated one. So the one I have is like 3 generations old by now, which I feel horrible about. But yeah, still want to check that out. I am moving towards a more regular release schedule of like a few weeks at least planned ahead. So yeah, it's going to be less of a rush, and maybe I'm actually going to be able to sneak that in. Cool. My thoughts on E3D's video on Twitter about the printer with automatic tool head changing. Fantastic. I love it. I think it's, I mean, it might be a bit overkill. Like having the full nozzle or hot-end or tool changing even might be a bit more than what we need. But if they can make it work, and if it's like, it doesn't look like it's so much over the top. I think I've seen a prototype in person. Yeah, it should be somewhat doable. So if they can pull it off, it might open up some very exciting new possibilities. And lastly, Part-Time Ron is asking about titanium nozzles, good or bad? Titanium, if I'm not mistaken, has a lower thermal conductivity than steel or brass. Actually, let me look that up, because that is kind of important. Thermal conductivity wiki. I think they have a table for that. Yes, and I would like the English article for that. List of thermal conductivities. That's actually what I'm looking at first, because I know like stainless steel nozzles perform horribly. They can't really get any heat into the filament that's in the nozzle, and the other half is typically encased in like stainless steel from the heat break. So titanium pure, is that this? Around 300? Watt per meter Kelvin. No, temperature. What? Thermal conductivity. Here, first column. Here we go. Titanium 15.6 to 22.5. That is extremely low. That is almost nothing. So for reference, I think copper is somewhere around 400. Copper pure, yeah, around 400. Aluminum is like 200 something. Why do you keep changing down? Aluminum oxide, no. Aluminum pure, what? Yeah, around 200. So it's like super low on the thermal conductivity. I would not use it as a nozzle. I know Adam makes it work with a like fully titanium hot end, though a material mix is probably the better engineering solution for that. Yeah, so same issue probably as with a stainless steel nozzle. You just can't get quite enough heat into your filament, and you're going to be severely limited in print speed if you do choose to use one, though it should be somewhat okay when it comes to wear. Though I think just a steel nozzle, a hardened steel nozzle should be, better, like literally better. All right, so I'm hoping that answered all the questions you guys might have. Tungsten design might produce a tungsten, dice design might produce a tungsten carbide. I have not seen that actually. I looked that up. It's probably very low conductivity as well. But they're just going to have the insert probably, like the Ruby nozzle. Cool. But I'm hoping that answered all your questions. As always, thank you for your support. I didn't prepare this. I am looking into what is typically my teleprompter. I should have like a text on here that I can just like unleash on you. But yeah, thanks for everything. I will be back on air in half an hour or so, I guess, with a 3D Senpai. We did one a while ago, but basically thumbnail is going to be this guy, this little horrible benchy. Looking at people's replicate. Yes, looking at people's 3D prints and how to improve it over on Twitter. If you want to send in stuff, use hashtag 3D Senpai. I might be able to post the. Oh, nah, let's not. I might be able to post the. I'm not going to be able to post the URL to that, but it's going to be announced in a minute. So yeah, if you want to submit your horrible 3D prints and watch me try and figure out what went wrong, post them on Twitter. Hashtag 3D Senpai, and that's what we're going to use as a feed, and that's going to be roughly an hour long, working through all that. But yeah, as always, thanks for being here, and see you all soon. Bye. Stop. This is hard. Camera is there, my screen's over here. Like.